Breaking news that a debt ceiling agreement has finally been reached in principle. President Biden, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announcing late last night. While the crisis is not yet over, there is a framework of a deal in place now. Congress has until June 5th, we are told, to pass this deal in order to avoid defaulting on the nation's debt. Democratic negotiators agreed to some of the Republican demands for increased work requirements for recipients of food stamps, but in the larger picture stopped short of the greater spending cuts that Republicans wanted. President Biden, in a statement last night, writing, quote, "It is an important step forward that reduces spending while protecting critical programs," continuing, "The agreement represents a compromise, which means not everyone gets what they want. That's the responsibility of governing." Now, for his part, Speaker McCarthy updated reporters shortly after the tentative pact was reached.
After weeks of negotiations, we have come to an agreement in principle. We still have a lot of work to do, but I believe this is an agreement in principle that's worthy of the American people. It has historic reductions in spending, consequential reforms that will lift people out of poverty into the workforce, rein in government overreach. There are no new taxes, no new government programs. There's a lot more within the bill.
It was a no necktie night at the Capitol. The Speaker briefing House Republicans about the details, and President Biden will be briefing Democrats this afternoon. Now, if Congress approves this deal in time, it would avoid what could have been an economic disaster, not only for the U.S., but around the world. Let's bring in our political panel this morning and break down the details. Kerry Picket is a senior congressional reporter for the Washington Times, and Hailey Fuchs is a money and politics reporter for Politico. I guess the first question is, are we surprised that this came together, at this late hour on a Saturday night?
Well, I got to tell you, usually these types of epic debates usually come together at the last moment. We see this whether it's with the debt ceiling debate, whether it's with these, CRs or whatever the case may be. But these lawmakers like to do this to try and get some sort of leverage. So now we're having the lawmakers look at this bill. They have about, they're going to have about 72 hours to look at it, and around Wednesday is the prediction.
So now the sales part of this begins. Who has the tougher hill to climb here right now? Because we had heard from progressive Democrats that, we don't want to start giving in to these Republicans' demand for spending cuts. But at the same time, Kevin McCarthy has heard, and we had one of them on last weekend, Congressman Bob Good, saying, we want these cuts in place. We want the bill that we passed a couple of weeks ago. Who has the harder hill to climb?
I think we're seeing both, from the, right flank of the Republicans, the left flank of the Democrats. There is, a lot of criticism for this deal, and both parties kind of face an uphill battle to get the necessary votes to get this, across the finish line.
Why do we do this? Get to this situation where again and again and again, we're talking about getting into a debt ceiling crisis. And in the past, it has been passed with little or no fanfare because they knew they had to pay the bills that the country incurred. Are we locked in this cycle that this thing gets dragged out of the closet every couple of years now? They're going to have a political fistfight over something they know they need to do.
Well, keep in mind, you had the Republicans after they took control of the House, that the Freedom Caucus ended up putting Kevin McCarthy into this, essentially this box where he has to really apply himself to these rules. And so, as far as a hill to climb, he is going to have to really apply himself to those rules. So he knows that if he doesn't stick to those rules, then he could very well, put himself into danger of having to vacate that chair. So therein lies a big issue as far as that is concerned. That's why there's probably a lot of fanfare going on right now on Capitol Hill.
Hailey, can McCarthy deliver this vote, though? Because we have seen, especially on his right flank, some resistance, not only even Kevin McCarthy getting in that chair, but some of the things that they had wanted to do. How much can we say about whether or not they're going to be able to vote on this and get this approved by Wednesday?
I think that this will require some Democratic votes. Most of my colleagues reported that the White House expected there would be, a necessary 100 votes or something from Democrats. So this really will require bipartisan support.
All right. Well, I want to change gears here for a moment because we had a